Yes, indeed. The countdown is on. You're on your election headquarters. Welcome to Voters' Voice. Today, the question we're asking is, will a party's manifesto convince you to vote? Here are voices from WA.
I believe in it because somehow it serves as a contract document that is signed between political parties and electorate. So to some extent, I do believe in it.
So do you think that it will influence your vote in the 2020 polls?
Sure, especially we will want to have a general idea about how the various political parties will want to rule the country if given the opportunity. We know that in the past, it's not all that will always be fulfilled by political parties when they come into government, but at least some reasonable percentage, if it's being fulfilled, it's always encouraging. But we will want to assess the various political parties, what they come up with in their various manifestos, and that will certainly influence our decision on the elections.
I can't believe in all of them. I have to believe in my party.
So your party manifesto, you believe in it?
Yes.
Why do you believe in it?
I know very well that he will make it.
But why do you believe him this time? Why do you believe NDC this time?
No, you know, the NDC, he did something. And I know very well that when he comes, he will continue with it, what he has done for the previous time.
Certainly. And the reason is just not far-fetched. They serve as a serving contract and a blueprint and indicates the way and manner in which the various political parties seek to govern this country. So it is very important we vote based on the manifestos that each party presents.
And so you are still waiting because not all the political parties have come up with their manifesto. So will that influence your vote in 2024?
Yes, it will surely do.
But what are the key things that you think that you are looking for?
I'll be looking out for a government or party that will be interested in promoting, first of all, a cordial relationship between all Ghanaians, and ruling and ensuring that all ethnic groups or tribes are well vested in the government. And again, I'll be looking at a party or government that will be ready to improve the infrastructural base of this country and also tackle the health and educational needs of our various districts and communities.
So we know that political party manifestos play a crucial role in visions of political democracy and for political analysis. What we don't know much about really is how they even come about in terms of how they collate what is contained in those manifestos. We will try and figure out a few things, but we've also come a long way. It hasn't always been like this, even though they've had their manifestos. Some time ago, we didn't pay a lot of attention to it like we're doing right now. At least that's what some political science analysts say. Joining me for a conversation on the back of what you've heard from WA on the Voters' Voice is Professor RansfordGyampo. He's a political scientist. He joins me via Zoom. Good morning to you, Prof. If you can hear me, thank you very much for your time. Hello, Professor Gyampo.
Hello.
Yes, hi. Good morning, Prof. Thank you so much for your time this morning on Voters' Voice.
Thanks for having me.
So we're looking at whether or not people pay attention to the manifestos and if it influences their votes. We're hearing voices from WA, and apparently so, even though some people also say that they will only look at the manifesto of their political party. But I want you to take us back a little bit. We've come a very long way with political party manifestos. Now it's become the national agenda, if you like. Even we don't have a national development plan. It's become the national development plan, even though it's from a political party. So take us a little back. How far have we come?
No, manifestos have always been important. They have been there for political parties. If you look at the directive principles of state policy, chapter 6 of the 1992 Constitution. It talks about the need for political parties to play a certain active role to ensure the socio-economic, political, and cultural development of a country. And various political parties, when given the mandate to rule, would want to act in a manner, or they want to campaign on issues that would, when satisfied, would fulfill the some of the tenets of the directive principles of state policy. And so right from 1992, political parties have sought to fashion out manifestos that sort of address some of the requirement of the directive principles of state policy. So they've been there. We've always used, make use of them. I am rather not sure that they have now become more important. I think between 1992 right up to somewhere in 2012, political parties held manifestos in high esteem. But from 2016 and up to now, I believe that political parties have not shown seriousness with with manifestos, and voters have also been kind of aloof in not ensuring that political parties pay serious attention to it. Why am I saying so? In previous times, you have parties, because of the seriousness they attach to manifestos, always coming out with their manifestos about, let's say, about a year before elections, or 7 months or 8 months before elections. But in 2016, something unprecedented happened. You have the two main political parties trying to play hide and seek with each other. They didn't want to release their manifesto because they feel that, well, if I release first, somebody will copy and all that kind of, for me, trivial explanations. And so they released their manifestos very late, if you remember, in the lead up to the 2016 elections. And I was disappointed because manifestos are provide issues-based electioneering, and they are a heart of peaceful elections. If you want elections to be peaceful, if you want campaign to be peaceful, and if you want voting to be informed by rational choice, then manifestos will have to come out quickly and early enough for people to digest and to be able to understand the content, so that they can the contents can inform the kinds of discussion in the body politic in the lead up to election. But it came in late in 2016, and I was, well, maybe 2016 was a unique case, and so I was looking forward to we going back to the practice of old, where manifestos would be released early. It's about 3 months to elections, and the MPP just released their manifesto. The NDC is yet to do that, and I think this is unacceptable. Voters must demand accountability. The people of Ghana must call on their party leaders, on the flag bearers of various political parties, that they must treat them with some seriousness, because you cannot take people for granted. You hide your manifesto, you keep it right until 3 months to election before you release it. I think it's a very unacceptable practice, and we must condemn. I condemn the political parties in no uncertain terms for delaying the release of their manifesto. You see, in the lead up to 2016 elections, the manifesto provision that caught the attention of Ghanaians for the MPP, for instance, was just free SHS. Go and read the contents of the MPP manifesto. You'll see that it contains several provisions and several prescriptions that the MPP, set out to do when they went on. There were so many laudable ideas in their manifesto, and yet what caught the attention of Ghanaians was just free SHS, because there wasn't much time for people to read and digest. I mean, recently, as they launched their 2020 manifesto, I don't know whether you followed it. The president was at a radio station. He was asked a question about the construction of an airport in my home region, Cape Coast, and he wasn't sure. If you look at the responses that he gave, he didn't have his foot on the pedal, as far as that particular issue was concerned. 24 hours time, his vice president, in the launching of the manifesto, made a categorical and emphatic statement that they are going to do it because it is in their manifesto. It tells you that even the number one chief executive, of the country, and also the president, whose party was launching its manifesto, wasn't too sure about all the content. And so my point is that for us to be able to be serious as a people, we should launch the manifestos very early enough, such that each and every single Ghanaian would, at the minimum, be able to mention at the minimum 10 manifesto provisions or manifesto contents. So if it's NDC, we should be able to say MDC says they will do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K. That's at the minimum 10, and not just one. Otherwise, it becomes difficult for us to demand accountability when people are elected to power.
Okay.
So if you talk about NDC, MPP now, what sank in the psyche of people is free SHS. And I'm thinking it is not only free SHS that the MPP documented in their manifesto. There are other laudable provisions. And so if politicians are serious, and if Ghanaians, we want to hold and demand accountability from our power and duty bearers, we should insist that they take us seriously and bring their manifesto early enough so that we can all
when you say early enough, when you say early enough, is it a year, 2 years before the election?
At the minimum, 1 year, 8 months to 1 year to an election.
Okay, but do we know how they even compile these manifestos in the first place? Should we care?
Well,
are they just promises?
Previously, politicians would just contract somebody or an expert to just do research, or to sit in the comfort of his or her bedroom and to write something for them, and a document that they themselves would adopt as their manifestos. And you know that so many people within the party may not even be familiar with the contents and all that. But for some time now, political parties have adopted a new method or mode where they set up manifesto committees to collate views, and if you look at the NDC, for instance, they said they were evolving or drafting the People's Manifesto. So they were going house to house to solicit views as to what they think should be in the interest of Ghanaians, or what the needs of Ghanaians, should be, and all that. And so for some time now, you have parties being innovative, setting up committees comprising people of various fields of expertise, and trying to put their thoughts together by first also consulting some Ghanaians. And like I said, NDC took a different, a more deeper approach by even going door to door and asking people about what they want to, they think the problems are, and all that. And so the processes, in my view, have evolved. We have moved on from the times where one person will be contracted to prepare something and dump on the political parties, and the content will not be known, and to a situation where, at the minimum, committees are formed to look at the drafting of manifestos for political parties.
Okay, Prof, how do we hold the parties accountable? How do we push them to actually do what they've said they will do by way of what is contained in the manifesto?
Well, you can push them and you can demand accountability when you know the contents. And if you don't know the contents, then we can't push them. We can't demand accountability. And so we will do so by you guys in the media highlighting the contents and seeing and empowering people with information about what they said they'll be doing, and encouraging people to be asking. You see, our politicians have succeeded in plaguing us with excessive partisanship that divides us. And so once we are divided, they know that they can have their way. They can just maneuver their way and dodge us and do all manner of things that pleases them. But once we remain remain united, and we have a consensus that, look, certain things must be done, and if they have not been done, we will demand accountability. Politicians will sit up. You remember when politicians in parliament wanted to construct a chamber. Ghanaians across the political divide said no, and they had no choice than to abandon that idea. And so if we are all together and we are fighting, we are the quest to extricate ourselves from the quagmires of poverty and underdevelopment is of utmost importance to us. Then first of all, we will not allow politicians to overly divide us into excessive partisanship. And then we would all together say that, well, you said XYZ in your manifesto. We understood you, we heard you loud and clear. And so we insist that you do them. If you don't do them, we boot you out of power. But because manifestos come in very late, oftentimes it becomes difficult for even the elites in the political parties themselves to be conversant with the contents of the manifestos of their parties. Go do a brief search of among the MPP elites or among the top echelons of the NDC and find out whether they are aware of the manifesto contents of their own political party, of the 2016 manifesto contents, and you will be shocked that you would have about 90 to 95% not being aware of the manifesto content of their own political parties. And if these elites who may have, who belong to the top echelons of the political parties do not know, you don't expect the ordinary Ghanaian to know. More importantly, when they are also bringing these manifestos at the dying minutes, of an election year. I mean, it is an unacceptable practice that must be condemned in no uncertain terms.
I've also got to ask you how the manifestos have influenced the electoral chances, particularly of the main political parties, if they have at all.
All right. So there are four main theories that determine voting. Number one, we call the party identification model of party identification theory. Here, voters vote simply based on the parties that they belong to. So if I'm MPP, I just vote for MPP, not because of manifesto. And then there is also the sociological model that shapes voting. That one talks about where the person comes from. So people will say, well, we are all Fantis, and so we'll vote for a Fanti. The person is the son of the source, we'll vote for the person. We attend the same church. We are all choristers. We all go to singing band and all that. Or the one contestant is the husband of my friend or something. That's sociological model. Then you have dominant ideology model where people vote based on ideology. And then you have the most important one being the rational choice model. The rational choice model simply says that people should look into their own life, and it's like a Shawasitne model of voting. Just look at your own life, assess what you need, and see who is promising what you need and who you think is credible in fulfilling what is being promised. And so when people vote based on that, on some of these things, then you say, well, they are rational actors or they are being influenced by the rational choice model of voting. Now, manifesto preparation or the contents of manifesto is always in tandem with the rational choice model of voting. If you prepare a manifesto, of course, you are going to document certain bread and butter issues confronting the people of Ghana. And if people look at it and they vote, it means then they are being rational actors. But sadly to say, I will tell you that you have a huge chunk of the Ghanaian citizenry voting based on irrational issues. And so then that tells you that the contents of manifestos do not really matter to the voting population, to a huge chunk of the voting population. Over the years, we have voted essentially based on the party identification model. It's a fledgling democracy. It's a developing democracy. And so people do partisan alignment, and partisan de-alignment is always difficult in fledgling democracies. What I mean by partisan de-alignment is difficult in fledgling democracies is that once the person signs up to be an MPP or NDC supporter, that is it. He supports NDC, and no matter the situation, he votes for the NDC. And so when he votes for the NDC, he expects his children to vote for the NDC, he expects his spouse to vote for NDC, and all that. And once the person belongs to that party, with the greatest of respect, even if you put, quote and unquote, a non-entity there, that, well, this is the choice of the party, people vote. So they vote for party, and they don't vote, and that is all. And so when that becomes the issue, the MPP supporter or the NDC supporter doesn't really care about what is in the manifesto. Once he is MPP, he votes for MPP. But take note of this. That is not to say manifestos are not relevant. Manifestos are relevant, and they are the documents or the contents are assessed by electoral kingmakers in deciding who must win an election. And so the point I'm trying to say is that, you see, NDC may have a core support, a 40% core support base. NPP may have a 40% core support base. Now, the 40-40 core support bases of these two parties are always not enough to determine who must win an election. There will be something like a 15-20% support, 15-20% voters who are floaters, who are always undecided, and who are the election kingmakers. These are the highly educated, these are the objective thinkers, these are people who would always want to go by the rational choice theory of voting. And so they look at what you say and the contents of your manifesto before deciding whether they want to swing their vote to party A or party B. And so, to that extent, the manifesto is very important. It may not be important to the diehard party supporters who are only influenced by the party identification model of voting, but it becomes important to the 10, 15, 20% citizenry or voters who are influenced by the rational choice, model of voting. And they are the election kingmakers.
Okay. All right, Prof, we'll have to leave it here. I want to say thank you to you for your thoughts, the insights that you bring to this conversation. We'll put what you said to test. Wait and see, even though it's a very short period, to see how much of these promises in the manifestos the people themselves remember, apart from what the political parties say on the political platform. We appreciate your time. And that's Professor RansfordGyampo there. He's a political scientist. The voters' voice today from WA has been whether or not the manifesto will influence your vote. We heard there the importance of political party manifestos. One of the things that Prof said, which will stay with me, is apart from the key things that are said, which is usually one thing or two, what else do you remember from the political parties' manifesto? Also calling for them to release the manifestos at least a year, 8 months to the election so that we can all be familiar with its content and hold them accountable. That's voters' voice today. Thank you for your time. Stay with us. There's plenty more to come here on the AM Show.
I believe in it because somehow it serves as a contract document that is signed between political parties and electorate. So to some extent, I do believe in it.
So do you think that it will influence your vote in the 2020 polls?
Sure, especially we will want to have a general idea about how the various political parties will want to rule the country if given the opportunity. We know that in the past, it's not all that will always be fulfilled by political parties when they come into government, but at least some reasonable percentage, if it's being fulfilled, it's always encouraging. But we will want to assess the various political parties, what they come up with in their various manifestos, and that will certainly influence our decision on the elections.
I can't believe in all of them. I have to believe in my party.
So your party manifesto, you believe in it?
Yes.
Why do you believe in it?
I know very well that he will make it.
But why do you believe him this time? Why do you believe the NDC this time?
No, you know, the NDC, he did something. And I know very well that when he comes, he will continue with it, what he has done for the previous time.
Certainly. And the reason is just not far-fetched. They serve as a serving contract and a blueprint, and indicates the way and manner in which the various political parties seek to govern this country. So it is very important we vote based on the manifestos that each party presents.
And so you are still waiting because not all the political parties have come out with their manifesto. So will that influence your vote in 2024?
Yes, it will surely do.
But what are the key things that you think that you are looking for?
I'll be looking out for a government or party that will be interested in promoting, first of all, a cordial relationship between all Ghanaians, and ruling and ensuring that all ethnic groups or tribes are well vested in the government. And again, I'll be looking at a party or government that will be ready to improve the infrastructural base of this country and also tackle the health and educational needs of our various districts and communities.